"Daddy isn't gone. He's under the floor," whispered the little girl, her voice soft, her eyes wide, her teddy bear cradled tightly in her arms. Chief Mike Thompson froze mid-sip of his lukewarm gas station coffee. The words barely made sense at first, like a sentence stitched from fragments of dreams. But the child's tone carried no fantasy, no giggle of mischief, no trembling fear, only certainty. "Under the floor?" he repeated slowly. The girl, Keisha, 5 years old, black, hair in 2 tight puffs, shoes swinging off the edge of the police station chair, nodded. "Where Mommy put the new tiles." Sergeant Davis didn't even glance up. Kids, too many horror movies. He snorted, shuffling his paperwork. But Thompson's instincts, sharpened by 2 decades of watching victims lie, criminals twist, and truth struggle to breathe, screamed otherwise. He looked again. Keisha wasn't lying. Her eyes, they were too calm. Beside her sat Mrs. Eleanor Williams, 67, the neighborhood hawk with a memory like a steel trap. Her lips were pressed thin, eyes flickering with dread. "Sheriff, you know Marcus Johnson, right? Been missing 4 days. Ain't like him. That man adored that child, wouldn't go nowhere without telling somebody." Thompson did remember Marcus. Civil engineer, sharp guy, always wore a pressed shirt, always on time for PTA meetings. Proud father, kept pictures of his daughter in his wallet like medals of honor. He was the kind of man who made being a dad look like art. Then there was Vanessa. Marcus's wife, Vanessa Johnson, had strolled into the precinct days earlier in designer heels and too much perfume, filing a missing person report with all the emotion of a woman ordering a latte. Blonde, composed, crisp. "My husband is unpredictable. He takes trips. He'll turn up." She said it like she knew better, like the world had always bent around her version of truth. Thompson hadn't liked her tone then. He hated it now. Keisha was drawing. Crayons skated across the paper, forming a scene that made Thompson's blood cool. A man beneath a checkered floor. Next to him, tiny rectangles. Bags? Bricks? No 5-year-old should know how to sketch concealment. He knelt beside her. "Sweetheart, where exactly is your daddy?" "In the new kitchen," she said without pause. "Mommy said it's a secret, but Daddy's cold. He cried real loud, then he stopped." Mrs. Williams clapped her hand over her mouth. Davis's pen dropped. Thompson leaned in, breath shallow. "Keisha, what happened the night Daddy went quiet?" She didn't answer, not directly. She turned her teddy bear around, whispered to it. Then, "Mommy hit Daddy with the big pot, the black one. He fell and didn't move. She cried and said it was his fault for not listening." Silence blanketed the room like snow. "She wrapped him in the blue blanket from my bed, dug a hole, put him in. Then men came, put the new floor. Mommy smiled a lot that day." She said it with the same tone other kids used to describe cartoons. But what she described was murder. Miles away, Vanessa Johnson was sitting across from her lawyer, sipping sparkling water, applying lip gloss. "We need to expedite the life insurance process. It's been 4 days, and my husband is likely not coming back." What she didn't know, what she couldn't imagine, was that her daughter's innocent voice was already tearing down the empire she had tried to build on lies. That night, Mrs. Williams leaned closer to Thompson. "I heard screams that night," she whispered. "Then a thud. Then dragging, like something heavy. Next morning, a renovation crew. Worked through the night." "What were they renovating?" "The kitchen floor," she replied, voice thin. "She said it was a surprise for Marcus." Thompson's spine tingled. Later, as he stared again at the child's drawing, the man, the floor, the rectangular bags, 1,000 alarms screamed in his mind. She saw it all. He called Judge Morrison. "A warrant? Based on a child's drawing?" "She gave us details, Judge. Details no kid should know. The timing matches. A floor job the next day. Suspicious wife." "You have a body?" Not yet. Do you have another adult witness? Just a 5-year-old who saw her father die. That's not enough, Mike. Thompson slammed the phone down harder than he meant to. Justice, it seemed, still bent to privilege, especially when the suspect was a wealthy, white suburban wife with good lawyers and a perfect smile. Minutes later, Davis came rushing in. "Boss, Vanessa was just at her lawyer's. She's pushing hard on the life insurance. 4 days and she's cashing in." Thompson clenched his jaw. How much is the policy worth? $1.5 million. Of course. Then the phone rang. Vanessa Johnson. Her voice was honeyed, false. "Sheriff, I heard my daughter visited you today?" She did. She's worried about her father. Children have such wild imaginations, don't they? Always stories, monsters under beds, bodies under floorboards. A dry laugh. It's how she copes. Thompson froze. She said it. Bodies under floorboards. No one says that unless it's already haunting them. "You said bodies, Mrs. Johnson? That's oddly specific." A long pause. "You're not really entertaining the fantasies of a traumatized child, are you, Sheriff? That would be unprofessional." A veiled threat. Classic. He hung up. An hour later, Davis slapped a report on his desk. Got Marcus's phone records. He called a divorce lawyer multiple times, week before he vanished. Thompson's mind raced. Divorce meant she'd lose everything. No will, no prenup. But if he died married, she got it all. He was planning to leave. She knew, and she stopped him. That's when Mrs. Williams returned, holding Keisha's hand. "Detective," the little girl said, her voice trembling now. "Mommy's mad I talked. She said they'll take her away, but I told her you were nice." Thompson swallowed hard. She was 5, and she had more courage than most grown men he'd met. "Keisha, do you remember who your mommy talked to after Daddy went quiet?" "A man. He called her my love. Daddy never called her that." "Do you know his name?" "She said Uncle Richard, but Daddy didn't have a brother. They kissed. I saw." Richard. Adulterer. Accomplice. Another piece locked into place. Thompson turned to Davis. "You got someone at the telecom company?" "Brother-in-law." "Good. I want Marcus's cell location the night he disappeared. Unofficial." Davis grinned. On it. The next morning, Thompson got the call from Mrs. Williams. "She's packing, Sheriff. Big suitcases. Richard's helping. They're moving boxes out the basement. Big ones." "Can you get the license plate?" "Already did. I've watched people my whole life. They won't see me." She was a one-woman surveillance team. Then Davis burst in. "We got it. Phone was stationary at the Johnson home from 10 p.m. to 3 p.m. the night he vanished. Then signal went dead. Exactly when Kesha said it happened. And Richard? Richard Steinberg, financial advisor, runs a crypto shell company, registered to Vanessa 3 months ago. They were planning the exit, long before Marcus disappeared. Thompson called Dr. Patricia Moore, trusted child psychologist, veteran of trauma cases. "I need you to interview a child, 5 years old, eyewitness. Mike, courts rarely accept testimony from kids that young. She has details, real ones, and if you vouch for her, this whole case shifts." Moore agreed. Now came the hard part, confronting Vanessa face to face with everything. Davis and Thompson pulled into the Johnson driveway. Richard's car, suitcases, guilt written all over it. Vanessa opened the door. Her smile evaporated the moment she saw them. "Going somewhere, Mrs. Johnson?" "Just a weekend getaway." Interesting, considering what we just found. Thompson pulled out a folder. Cell tower data. Marcus's phone was here, from 10 to 3, then gone. He probably forgot his charger. Funny, Kesha said that's when you hit him with a cast iron pot. She went pale. Thompson didn't stop. You own a crypto company with Richard, registered before Marcus vanished, moving money, emptying accounts, trying to rush the insurance. Richard appeared behind her. Who's that? Thompson asked, already knowing. Richard Steinberg? The uncle Kesha described? Vanessa's voice cracked. You can't prove anything. Actually, Thompson said, savoring the moment, Mrs. Williams saw you carrying boxes, taking things from the basement. Richard turned. You said no one saw— Shut up, Vanessa snapped. Thompson kept going. We have your bank records, shell accounts, transfers. We know Marcus planned to leave you. You killed him, hid him, tried to profit. Richard began to sweat. You said he agreed to the divorce. You fool, she shrieked. He was going to leave me with nothing. And just like that, the mask shattered. Thompson stared at them both. You underestimated a 5-year-old. You thought she wouldn't speak, but she loved her father more than she feared you. Richard whispered, I didn't know she'd kill him. I just helped with the money. Keisha saw you help bury him. And then, sirens. The cavalry. Vanessa slumped. Richard tried to bolt. Too late. As the cuffs clicked shut, Thompson looked them both in the eye. Your lies built this hell, and the truth of a child brought it crashing down. 6 months later, Keisha lived with Mrs. Williams. She was healing, smiling again. Thompson received a letter, written in colorful crayon. Thank you for helping my daddy. Grandma says truth is brave. I want to be brave too. At the state penitentiary, Vanessa Johnson was learning that money couldn't buy respect. Not in a cage. Isolated. Shunned. The queen turned ghost. Richard was worse. Transferred to the psych ward. Repeating one phrase, the girl knew, the girl knew. And she did. More than any adult ever expected. Dr. Moore became a national advocate for child testimony. The Keisha Protocol, now law in multiple states. The Johnson House, converted into a community center. The Marcus Johnson Community Center, where kids could speak and be heard. On the first anniversary of his death, Keisha laid yellow flowers on his grave. Daddy, they know now. I told them. No one forgot you. Thompson knelt beside her. You're a hero, Keisha. She smiled. I just told the truth, Uncle Thompson. Sometimes that's all it takes. Not guns, not lawyers, just one brave child, and the truth that refused to stay buried. The storm had passed, but its scars ran deep. Thompson, months after the trial, still carried the case with him like a shadow. Every time he drove past the Johnson residence, now transformed into the Marcus Johnson Community Center, he felt both pride and sorrow. Pride that justice had prevailed. Sorrow that it had cost a child her innocence. Inside the center, laughter echoed. Kids played. The walls were painted with bright murals, some even drawn by Keisha herself. One particular painting stood out. A large, smiling sun. A little girl with curly hair holding a tall man's hand, standing on a field of yellow flowers. Me and Daddy, she had explained. In Heaven's Park. Thompson kept that image in his heart. But even heroes like Keisha had demons to face. It was a Tuesday morning when Mrs. Williams called again. Her voice, usually strong, was trembling. "Sheriff, she had a nightmare, woke up screaming for her father, said she saw him under the floor again. I tried everything. She won't stop crying." Thompson didn't hesitate. Within an hour, he was on her porch, kneeling in front of Keisha, who clutched her teddy bear like it was a life raft in stormy seas. "You came," she whispered. "I'll always come." Keisha looked up. "Uncle Thompson, why did Mommy kill Daddy?" No badge or training could have prepared him for that. "Will she ever be sorry?" Thompson paused. "I don't know, but I know you did the bravest thing anyone could ever do." The little girl nodded. "Sometimes I still hear him crying." That night, Dr. Patricia Moore returned. She had continued visiting Keisha after the trial, pro bono, driven by a connection that went beyond duty. She and Thompson sat in the kitchen, quietly listening to Keisha hum to her teddy bear upstairs. "She's healing," Patricia said, "but trauma this deep takes years to untangle. Her memory is her gift, and her burden." Thompson took a deep breath. "I've seen hardened men survive war and crack under less. Then imagine what it means for a child." Vanessa Johnson's appeal. In a cold courtroom in the state capitol, 6 months later, Vanessa Johnson sat in shackles, lips painted, posture poised, but eyes hollow. Her new defense lawyer, paid by a group of wrongfully convicted advocates, argued the original trial was biased. "The key witness," he thundered, "was a 5-year-old girl." But the judge wasn't impressed. He'd read the entire transcript. He'd reviewed the drawing, the phone records, the financials, the hidden camera footage later recovered from the renovation company's van, where Vanessa had demanded the workers keep quiet. The trail of guilt was overwhelming. Then came the letter, written in Keisha's shaky handwriting. "Please don't let Mommy go. I want to be safe. I miss Daddy, but I know what I saw." It was read aloud in court, and that was the end. Appeal denied. Vanessa collapsed in tears, not of remorse, but of defeat. Richard Steinberg's end. In a padded cell, lit by flickering fluorescent light, Richard sat scribbling the same phrase on the wall over and over. "The girl knew. The girl knew. The girl knew." He hadn't spoken a full sentence in weeks. A state psychiatrist marked his file. Irreversible mental decline due to prolonged guilt psychosis. His company was gone, his fortune frozen, his name poisoned. Keisha had haunted him, not out of vengeance, but with the unbearable weight of truth. A new beginning. 3 years later, a crowd gathered in the city park. The mayor stood at a podium, Thompson by his side, Mrs. Williams and a now 8-year-old Keisha in the front row, her curls longer, her smile brighter, her voice steady. "We gather today," the mayor said, "to honor a father who stood for love and a daughter whose voice brought him justice." The city unveiled a bronze statue, Marcus Johnson holding his daughter on his shoulders, looking upward, toward hope. Keisha placed a single yellow daffodil at its base. She turned to Thompson. "Do you think he's proud of me?" "He's more than proud, Keisha." Thompson's voice tight with emotion. "He's smiling through every sunbeam, every breeze. He's with you." Legacy. By the time Keisha turned 12, the Keisha Protocol had been adopted in 21 states. Children were no longer dismissed in courtrooms simply because of age. Special units were formed to handle child testimonies. Detectives across the country studied the Johnson case. Dr. Patricia Moore wrote a best-selling book, Innocent Truth: The Case That Changed Child Justice. Proceeds went to trauma recovery centers. Thompson eventually retired. His last day in uniform, he received a letter. Dear Uncle Thompson, you made me believe in heroes. You never stopped listening. Because of you, I'm not afraid anymore. Love, Keisha. He framed it. And in the heart of the city, every child who walked through the doors of the Marcus Johnson Center saw a mural of a little girl in pigtails pointing to the floor and saying the words that started it all. Daddy isn't gone. He's under the floor. Because sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers in the quiet voice of a child who refuses to forget the truth.